Thanks for listening to the Drummers Weekly Groovecast. You can contact the show at twitter.com/DW Groovecast and through Facebook at facebook.com/Drummers Weekly Groovecast.
Good evening.
I am warning you right now, if you touch my drums, I will stab you in the neck with a knife.
Ain't a bucket. Ain't a bucket.
Mom!
Take it easy. Lower it.
I'm not gonna lower it. I have to do this now.
I don't mind you playing it, but lower it.
Everything is straightened out?
No, we had a problem. I mean, we tried to do everything we could.
What do you mean?
Well, you know what I mean.
Next.
Little trouble there. You're rushing.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah.
Oh, Phil, I'm here.
Oh no, that sounds good, man. Let's see if we can do that for about an hour.
All my answers will be like this.
People have complained that they can't hear John quite as clearly as they should.
Yeah.
So my guest on today's show, who is also power listener.
That's right. Am I going to be in the Council of Elders or whatever you call? Maybe.
Dude, you just
Auxiliary?
bastardized the name of that
What
entire
is
thing.
it?
It's the advisory board.
Oh, advisor. I couldn't remember.
Do you know, man, if I put you on the advisory board, do you know who you would be in company with?
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd be with Tom Breckline, Joel Rosenblatt, Rod Morgenstein, Jack Bell, somebody we know, this dude named Ryan Brown.
Yeah, Ryan Brown. Steve Gadd. Whatever.
Well, Steve hadn't been on the show yet.
Yeah.
I've said on the show before that it has become very apparent to me that basically in this weird grapevine of a community that we're in, there's
You're not
nobody,
far away.
Yeah, there's nobody that's more than 2 phone calls or 2 degrees of separation.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah. I think it's pretty easy. Yeah.
Who are you, man?
I don't know. Sorry.
We started this show, and all of a sudden there's a guy that showed up on my front porch driving a bike, and I'm like, who's this guy?
Yeah, it's me.
Tell these folks who you are.
I am David Freeman.
Okay.
You need more?
We need more,
you need
man.
Like
because
a street address?
Well, the thing is once you tell them at least who you are, what you do, and who you work with, we can at least then go back through our history of the 700 gigs that you and I have played together, and then on top of that, talk about our weird network of people that we know.
Yes. Pretty much everybody in Atlanta at this point. Yeah. So I'm a Atlanta-based saxophonist, mostly known for playing with the Yacht Rock Revue these days. So, yeah. But, been on the Atlanta scene since 96.
And that's when I first met you. I met you.
Second guy I met in Atlanta, I think, after Joe.
Right. I think that you and I had gotten in town maybe a year before you.
Maybe, yeah.
And then we became famous for making the Borders Bookstore tour.
That's right, man. I hit everyone in the Southeast, it felt like. Between that and the Cafe 290 jam session, we were everywhere.
We were everywhere, man. I'd say we made hundreds of dollars a month doing those, didn't we? Oh, my God. Somebody's at the door.
They're going to steal the
boy.
mic.
Oh, it's Michael Vick. Hang on. Let's keep this thing rolling, see what happens. Hang on.
Who could it be?
This is part of how are you? You're part of a podcast right now.
Is it John Chalden?
Come back later.
All right. Bye. All right. What did you almost get sold?
I almost got given, not sold.
Oh.
Don't be so cynical in your old age. I was almost given a free carpet shampooing and hardwood floor cleaning, which I have both, sir.
All right. So you're going to come back to that?
This is the first time this show has ever been interrupted by someone at the door.
Are you gonna have like a coupon code later on for
I don't even know what company that was, but I'm keeping this in the show, man.
All right.
I love it. But
everyone's given up by now.
I would have. So you and I met each other 20 some odd years ago.
Yeah.
Literally did hundreds of gigs. And the other thing that I think is absolutely worth mentioning before we even start talking about the topic is that Dave plays some drums as well.
I used to. I've officially given up.
You don't even have a practice pad in the house anymore?
No, I quit. I got I got too busy with other stuff. So yeah, the drums stood in the corner. Well, were set up for a long time in the corner, and then were stacked in the corner, and then there was a sheet over the drums because I didn't want them to get dusty, and I finally sold them. I had to give up. So sorry, I have to suck at other things now.
Well, it duly noted, but let me say this also. When you first mentioned to me that you were going to sell those drums, like this maybe like 3 months ago, so something like that, I had a little bit of a tear in my eye. I got choked up just because I was like actually a little bit of a part and impetus in helping you get those.
Yeah, keep going.
Symbol or two,
that's right.
That thing as well. But they have found themselves a fine home, though,
yes,
because we know where they went.
Someone will play them.
Yes. Which is more than could have been said for the last 10 years. 12 years.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, probably the last 6 or 7 years they've just been sitting there, and I'm never going to get back to them.
Did you ever change heads?
I don't know. At some point you told me to put Aquarian heads on them, and I know that they're Aquarian heads on maybe on all of everything.
Yeah.
But that was it.
All right.
That one time. I went from fiber skin to Aquarian, and
well, the fiber skin have a tendency to delaminate, bubble up a little bit,
If
you get a brush caught on. Yeah, you get a brush caught on them, and then you're done.
Does it start chipping away at
it?
Yeah.
I also want to mention that you, sir, are responsible for, and this goes both ways, of people either hating you or loving you for introducing me to now one of my favorite people on the face of the planet, Ryan
Big
Brown.
Rye! Yeah.
So shout out to Ryan
Big
Brown.
Rye.
Yeah. We got to make sure we at least text him and let him know this episode's coming up. Huh? He's somewhere out in California languishing right now.
Yeah. I guess so.
That guy.
They're not on tour right now?
No, but just as a side note, for anybody who wants to absolutely even get a taste of what it's like for self-flagellation, look at the Dweezil Zappa tour dates. Man, does anybody work any harder, any more consistently than those guys? I talked to him, it was a couple months ago, and he was telling me to look at some dates that they have coming up when they're going overseas again. There's one run that they're doing where I think they play, it's either 11 or 12 nights in a row with travel, and they play 2.5 to 3 hours
like
every
3 hours
night.
straight.
Yeah.
That's killer.
And let me tell you, man, they're not playing the old ticky boom.
I know.
On top of that,
That stuff sounds possible to play.
It's ridiculous.
Remember. Yeah. I can't believe anybody can remember all that stuff.
It's unbelievable.
Because you're right. It's not like, it's verse, chorus, solo, double chorus, and, trash can ending.
Yeah.
Whew.
It's like, make sure that when you take that second chorus, you hit that bar of 9 at the end.
Yeah. At least for me on my gigs, I have somewhere it's like, all I have to do is play tambourine. I can kind of for a second and then get back into it.
I wish that girl would knock on the door again.
You want to come back? You want to quote?
Well, let's talk about what we're supposed to talk about today. Because this is one of those topics that hit me in just a frightful nightmare of a dream. And
a sweaty dream.
Sweaty dream, because like I mentioned to you before we turned the microphones on, in the last 10 days, I've done 4 outdoor gigs.
Yeah.
And on 2 of them, there was typhoon-style conditions.
Really?
Yeah, bad. I mean, bad enough to have to stop.
Fun.
Yeah. And then the other 2, it was 90-plus degrees with probably 75% humidity. or more.
Yeah.
Now, granted, every one of these events we're talking about were all covered. No gear was damaged in the the playing of the gig.
Right.
Nobody was hurt, but it's just you have to have a certain mindset.
Yeah.
When you get ready to go into these gigs. And you also have to be prepared to take a few extra steps if you want to have any type of quality of gig or quality of life.
Yeah, definitely.
And I know that the Yacht Rock folk, which you are, of course, a major part of, have these gigs all the time.
We've done quite a few, yeah.
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 So let's talk a little bit about some of the kind of gigs that you guys do. As far as like, nearly all of them are going to be on some kind of a covered stage.
These days, yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Because in my decrepitude, I can't even think about playing on any kind of an outdoor stage that's not covered anymore.
No, yeah, that is, to me, that's almost a deal breaker. Though I don't have any say in it. But yeah, I am most angry to show up and see an uncovered stage. Or if the stage has sides that are up and maybe the sun is blazing through sideways or something. Yeah, it's just it'll wear you out quicker than you know it.
Well, and that's part of this topic as far as like talking about getting worn out. It's literally like for every outdoor gig you do, it's like you've done 2 indoor gigs.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're worn out before you even start sometimes just because the sun just microwaves you.
Sound check will get you.
Yeah. Yeah. Though, I say that though, the heat doesn't bother me as much as I worry about gear, I would say. Like I can get hot, and if after sound check, if we go and I can drink a couple bottles of water and sit down, I can kind of recover from that. But I do worry a lot, about gear sitting in the sun and what's going to happen and all that kind of stuff. What might overheat, or the other one that always gets me because I'm playing keyboard is the screens on like the liquid crystal display. Just vanish. And you go, I hope this is the right sound.
You ever had one crash because it's been in the sun?
Well, I use a laptop, and I've had the laptop reboot in the middle of a song one time. Yeah, and that scares me. It's always scary when you're playing and you kind of do anything. You look over like, my computer's not on, and then you kind of like playing one-handed, and I'm over there like banging on the space bar. Come back!
What is the computer for? Sounds?
Yeah, for the iwi. For my iwi rig, it runs through MainStage, and I have looked over and seen it rebooting, and that's terrifying.
Oh yeah.
You start looking at the set list going like, okay, I got 3 songs before that thing has to be back up and running. And so you're playing one-handed and trying to restart it and open MainStage again, and it's terrifying.
I've got a buddy, a keyboardist, that has actually had a keyboard crash.
Just keel over.
Yeah, because of that.
No, I hadn't seen that yet.
Yeah, he I can't remember which one it was or which brand it was, but yeah, he had some issues with that happening, and he's very careful about. He will even cover it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do that a lot. Or even just putting a towel over it is better than nothing. But that's what I was saying about the direct sunlight on either of those, any of the electronics is kind of scary to me, because to me it's a ticking time bomb. If you don't cover it, either you can't see the display or you don't know if it's going to freak out. I did have a backline keyboard one time in Jacksonville on an outdoor gig where occasionally notes would be a half step off. Just random notes on the keyboards. She's playing this string line, and it kind of goes like, no, 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 no. Just no, what's going on?
Schoenberg rock.
Yeah,
what's going on?
And so that's another thing where I'm playing one keyboard and I turn this one off and I'm turning it back on. Like, come on, man, come on, you can do it. We only got like one more set, and please come back. And it never would. It would do all sorts of weird stuff.
Do you have any particular pieces of personal gear or anything that you bring for these outdoor gigs? Because I certainly do. I have certain things that I bring.
Well, I guess the first line of defense is a tarp. You know, depending on the gig, though usually our stuff these days, somebody else is responsible for tarping gear. But in the past, I did have a tarp that got thrown in the truck every day, you know, that we had an outdoor gig just in case, either to cover it for sun or cover it because threat of monsoon. So the tarp is definite. And then the other thing I have is a clamp on fan. Yeah. that blows in between the keyboards, and that helps a lot.
While we talk about fans, which is an absolute must,
yes.
even on indoor gigs for me, I always bring one.
Our fans are on the backline list now.
Yes. Yeah. when I was talking to him about doing this podcast and he couldn't make it, he goes, I'm going to send you my thoughts, because he always asked him to send, and he sent me a link to an Amazon page that had a bunch of fans on it.
Totally. That's probably 75% of it is fan and water.
I promptly sent him back. That's more preparation you've done for any show you've ever been a part of. He loves it. It's all in good fun. It's all in jest. But I want to throw another thing out there regarding like coverings or tarps. Mm-hmm. I always carry two, but that's the kind of psychopath that I am. I carry a clear plastic tarp that is chiefly just for like rain or any kind of humidity, moisture, anything like that. Yeah. But something else that I carry with me for pure, if it's like one of those things where I just either want to keep sun off something, or B, want to keep inquiring hands and minds off of it. Mm-hmm. I've got a really large piece of black cloth. Yeah. That I'll take and just put over top of the entire kit, over top of the cymbals. Most of the time that keeps most people out of the way. Yeah. You know, whenever you do that. So that's a little bit, I guess, something different than just rain. Yes, yeah, it is. And I'm gonna go so far out to give an endorsement to a personal fan. Okay. I had to replace an old fan that I had for, probably 14, 15 years. Yeah. As they say in the business, didn't owe me a penny when it finally died, right? I can't recommend highly enough the plastic Honeywell personal fans.
Amazon link in the show notes.
Right. Well, but let me explain though. Okay.
All right.
This fan, you don't normally think of the ergonomics and the build quality of a fan until you've tried a few of them. Uh-huh. Almost every fan that I've ever owned has some sort of either metal or plastic kind of grating, we'll call it, that goes around it. The cage that goes around it. Honeywell, in their brilliance in research and development, instead of having that metal or plastic cage that surrounds it, they've got solid sides that go around it, which just funnels the air straight out. You don't get any loss.
Is that like one of the contractor fans? It's sort of
it may be
like that.
Yeah, it may be. It's very directional is what I'm trying to say. In other words, you just don't have a lot of air coming out the sides, not toward you. In other words, wherever you point that fan, it's coming right at you.
Yeah, it's focused.
Very focused, man. It's a cardioid fan is what it would be.
You're a dork.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, you got to have something to look forward on these gigs.
Fan. Mine was $9 and it fits in my box, so I don't have to. I can leave it in there with my other gear, and yes, a fan, good.
Well, dare I say, and this is no slight toward you, sir, because I do know you get active back there.
Yeah,
whenever
but
you play.
not like you guys.
Yeah, but not drummer active.
No, not at all.
Yeah, so I got to have something that's got a few more horsepower.
Yeah. Literally blowing your shorts off.
Hey, you said it, not me. I always have in my mind also, and God, I hope the listeners will immediately know what I'm talking about when I'm saying this. There is a super, super famous picture that was taken, I think, from probably back in the 70s, and it's the dearly departed and in my opinion, criminally underrated drummer Cozy Powell.
Okay.
They have a picture of him. I don't know at that time if he was playing with like maybe Deep Purple or Rainbow or somebody like that. And there's a picture of a window air conditioning unit on the stage with him, and it's got little streamers.
Yeah, nice.
It's got little streamers that are blowing toward him.
Yeah, he bought it that day.
I fancy myself as Cozy Powell from time to time.
I bet that sounded good in his microphones.
Oh, you know it did, man.
That's on one side of him. The other side, there's a stack with a subwoofer and a giant cabinet.
And then on the other side, a fifth of Jack Daniels and a plate of Peruvian flake cocaine.
Of course, yeah.
It's the 70s, man.
Yeah, gotta make it.
A couple of other things that I know that you will sign off on regarding like specialized outdoor gear.
Uh-huh.
If you're going to do any sort of chart reading, and we're going to go old school with like paper chart reading, not iPad chart reading, but
I'm all
paper
over this
chart
one.
reading.
Yeah.
You've got to have one of two things. You've either got to have a large clear piece of plexiglass, or you've got to have these long, we're going to call them like laundry, like clothespin clips, but they're clear.
With tongue depressor.
Yeah, right, yeah. But the tongue depressor type thing, it's clear where if you put it across the middle of your chart, you can still see through it and see the notation.
Yeah. That works a lot better than a cell phone and your keys.
Oh, yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
Because I've done that too. I'm trying to spread it all out. Yeah.
Yeah, I keep one of those things in this master case that I've got, because anytime I don't do that many outdoor reading gigs, maybe one a year.
Yeah.
But to have that and not have to worry about it or forget it.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you're having to like
cell phone and car keys.
Cell phone and car keys keep charts from flying off a stand when a typhoon comes through.
Yeah, I have about 6 pieces of plexiglass at home for that. They're all cut the same size.
Yeah.
And when I was doing a lot, now, most people are using iPads, but so it's not as big of a deal. Or, if it's like a first dance or something where I still needed a chart, I might just gaff tape that sucker to the top keyboard and play it on the bottom keyboard, that kind of thing, or up in the corner so I can kind of play it on saxophone and look down at it. But that's more of an emergency or laziness.
And you better hope you don't have to turn pages because you gaffed it down.
Yeah, and then very gently pull it off because I might need that chart again.
Yeah. To round out the drummer's end of things to bring, it's a no-brainer that if you do this for a little while, you want to leave your double-braced hardware at home if you possibly can, because you can take your hardware bag and literally transform it from 110 pounds down to about 60.
Yeah, I bet.
And so you owe yourself a favor to have some lighter hardware. Travel light as you can on that, because if you're setting up, tearing down outdoors, just like we've already talked about,
low energy at that point.
Yeah, you will be dead after the sound check if that's the case.
Yeah.
And then you better have a cart. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
You probably even have a cart, don't you?
I have a cart. These days, my gear, everything has wheels, so I'm able to drag everything. So I don't use the cart as much, but I still have a cart for, like if I had to bring a small PA for a jazz gig or something. Oh yeah, definitely a cart. Make it in one trip. I got really good at it for a while. When I was using the cart, like most drummers with a cart, I got my pack down and I know exactly how it all fits together.
Play
and
Tetris.
Where the bungee cords go and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and if I had to add one more thing, where would it sit? Where your jacket has to hang so you can still get what if you need your wallet or something.
Yeah. The last thing I want to add for the overachievers, and I mean, you really got to be an overachiever if you want to do this. Mm-hmm. If you are on a gig and you didn't book it and you know it's going to be outdoors, and then you know that there's not going to be any type of covering, there is a way around this. And it's especially important, I would say, for a drummer because, I mean, once we're set up, we can't move. In other words, if the sun is on us, it is on us. right? Whereas, for you as a saxophone player, you could potentially move around a little bit, right? Yeah. And stand under some shade for a little while, move over here, that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, I can dodge it.
So if you want to be the overachiever and you got about $150 burning a hole in your pocket, you can buy a relatively inexpensive yet very sturdy and incredibly reliable 10 by 10 portable tent.
Yeah, I have thought about this and threatened to do it several times just because even just for my keyboards and the laptop, man, it'd be cool to set that sucker up. And it's definitely worth the cost. I don't think they're even $150.
The one I bought one, and it was close to that. It was maybe like $130.
Yeah,
somewhere in there.
Because I think you can buy a cheap one at Dick's for $40 or something, and that way if you trash it or you forgot it, because I never bring a tent to the gig. You left it there at the end of the night. That about $40.
That would be a heck of an oversight, Mr. Freeman, if you just walked off without the tent.
But because you would take it down before the gig started. No, but if you set it up while you were setting up your stuff and you played sound check under the tent, and then the sun goes down, you take the tent down, you play the gig, and you move your regular pile of gear back to your car, you might forget the tent that you had knocked down and put in the corner. That's what I'm saying.
I'm just going to go with that.
All right. Yeah, that's a good idea, though. Yeah, I've thought about the tent a lot. I think it would definitely be worth it. Though you would get some weird looks from people.
Well, you might get some strange looks from some people, but I'll tell you will have a much happier gig.
Yeah.
Not having to worry about potential rain and or 95 plus degree sun right on top of you. One other thing that you would have to carry around, which would be I've already talked about packing light, and this wouldn't be packing light, but you would have to have it. On those style of tents, you would have to bring some sandbags.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, you'd have to bring some sort of weight to put around the four legs.
Right. And then concertina wire around that. Just keep the vocalist away.
Well said. And on a side note, I actually take mine to the beach.
Oh, okay.
Because as you can see, I sport a studio tan.
You're very pretty.
Yeah, thank you very much, man. I know I haven't seen you in a few months, but but yeah, I always take those things to the beach. So it's a multi-use thing. And plus, when you get to the gig and you open it up and sand comes flying out all over the place, it's a conversation piece to the client, right?
Yeah, that's good.
One last thing I want to talk about for our folks that use in-ear monitors. And this is something that I could wax poetic on for a while, but I'll just say this, that I've ruined a couple of pairs of in-ear monitors, and having those things consistently repaired not only is cost prohibitive, but it takes a long time, and you don't want to be without your monitors, especially if you're using them multiple times a week, which if you own them, you probably are using them multiple times a week.
Well, there's no going back once you start using them.
Totally agree.
It's rough.
So I carry with me, along with the Pelican case style case that comes with those monitors, I have a small round plastic container, plastic jar with a screw on top, right? Inside there, I have a little plastic mesh style pancake container that I fill up with granulated desiccant. Put that back into the round container. Soon as the gig's over, don't take your monitors and put them back in the Pelican case. Put them in the desiccant. Screw that top on super, super tight. Let them sit overnight.
Yeah.
And get all the moisture, all the sweat out of those.
Why don't you just put the stuff in the Pelican?
It won't close tight enough.
It's too
tight. And the other thing is this, man. The Pelican case does not have a compartment large enough to put the desiccant container in.
Oh, but I was thinking, like the ones that come in packaging that you would get in the mail, but. You mean the Pelican doesn't have a O-ring? Like it's not watertight? Or you don't think?
You know what? Maybe it does. I don't know. I just know this, that more than anything, the amount of desiccant that I put in that little plastic container jar type thing is significantly more than I could ever get.
Like a cup, you think?
Maybe not quite that much. I'm going to say probably a third of a cup is how much is in there. But I'll just have to show you what I'm talking about. The container diameter-wise is probably about 4 inches in diameter.
Yeah.
Okay? And then depth-wise, man, it is probably about 4 inches high, right? Or 4 inches deep.
Yeah.
Well, in the bottom of that little screened plastic container that has the desiccant fits directly inside of it. It's about 4 inches in diameter and probably about 3/4 of an inch high. And so you can imagine, man, if you just dump some bulk desiccant down in there, how much it would be. And it'd probably be a third to maybe even a half a cup of desiccant that's in there. And the other thing that's really cool about it is with that little container, since it's in something, it's not just loose desiccant that's in there. If it starts getting moist, you can take that little desiccant container, throw it in the microwave for about 30 seconds, and it regenerates it.
That's pretty cool.
We're all about saving you money here.
The only thing that scares me about that plan is now you have two things that you have to keep track of, which means that, either you bring the Pelican and forget to put the ears back in it, or you forget the thing to dry it out with the desiccant at the end of the night, and you go like, and then you wouldn't remember until tomorrow, and then you forgot to dry them out.
See, I would know that this is coming from you, a guy who would forget a freaking tent at a gig.
I haven't done it yet.
That you would forget your in-ear monitors. Well, let me say this. For me as a drummer, with all of my cases and stuff that I have, I carry this thing I like to call it a master case.
I thought you could say clipboard. I have a clipboard and a list and an assistant, and she checks them off as they go in the car.
By the way, we're looking for interns here.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right.
It's not going to be me.
Well, you could at least have a little bit more of a positive attitude toward that. I have gotten a few people that have responded so far. So,
well,
yeah.
Ryan Brown has a kid. Maybe, that.
I got kids too, but man, they don't want to have anything to do with this.
Yeah, they're done with this.
The desiccant that we were talking about. What were we talking? Oh, we're talking about forgetting the ears. That's what we're talking about.
I forget stuff.
Okay, so here's the thing. On my gigs, aside from all the drums are in cases, all the hardware's in cases, all of the cymbals are in cases, right? Well, I have a thing that I call an SKB. It's a master case. And what it is, it's just a large rectangular case. If you open it up, there's nothing on the inside. There's no compartments. There's no foam padding. There's nothing. It's just a big open case that you put random stuff in.
Yeah.
I put all my in-ear gear in there. I put a throne top in there. I'll put an extra bass drum pedal, charts if I need them, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
All the loose stuff.
Sure.
Goes in there. So it's easier for me than it would be for you unless you had space in
my Pelican.
Yeah, or a sax case even, you could throw it in there.
Yeah, it would probably go in the Pelican because that's where all my little pieces like that go. My throne and then all my little parts, effects pedals, expression pedals, sustain pedals, all that stuff.
Do you have a happy expression pedal?
No.
Do you have a confused?
I don't even know what to say.
A confused expression pedal. Some of the gigs we've been on before, I wanted to have a confused expression pedal.
Very much so.
I want to throw out also a list of, as John Chalden would say, the no duh stuff you got to bring to a gig. But let me tell you,
more than a fan.
It's more than a fan, but it's the type stuff that. Sure, you think about it right now. We're sitting here in my dining room, and you're like, well, of course you're going to bring that stuff. But let me tell you, it's not stuff you take to every gig. So if you don't have a list of this, and if you haven't thought about these, and if you haven't done any outdoor gigs in a while, I guarantee you're going to forget some of this stuff. First thing, bring some sun block.
Yeah.
Because even if you're covered, there's going to be times when you're going to have to be outside of that, or you might have that situation you were talking about where if a side of a tent
coming sideways,
or the side of a shell or an amphitheater or whatever, if there's a period of time, even if it's like 20 minutes, man, if you've got some serious sun on you, man, you get blistered because you can't move as a drummer.
Right.
Number 2, insect repellent.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Man, you can get eaten alive.
That's true. Yeah, I was thinking of that earlier about insects, even if they're not the biting kind, can just drive you nuts, crawling up your nose while you're trying to play, or on your hands or arms or on your instrument. I'm trying to play and you're watching two bugs going at it.
This is a PG show.
Oh, sorry. There are a lot of bugs out there.
Propagating.
Doing what bugs do.
The underrated performer of the year goes to what I'm calling a cooling towel. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, it's the ones that you freeze them.
Well, you can either do
like
that.
A chamois kind of thing.
Yeah, they are very much like a chamois. But the one that my daughter bought me several years ago, which it's borderline wizardry, man, how this stuff works, is essentially all you have to do is put it in water, or just cool water. Doesn't even have to be frozen. Doesn't have to be ice water. And then what you do is you wring it out and you snap it.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know what happens. I don't know what sort of black magic it is. But it works. It works, man. It turns that towel ice cold. But I carry that. That goes in my master case, man.
There'll be a link in the show notes
to that wizard towel.
To the commercial on YouTube.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about, though.
Yeah. And then another thing is, I don't have to do this anymore, but if you still, as a drummer, use a throne that doesn't have a cloth top, all my thrones now have cloth tops. But I used to have some that had like vinyl style tops. Yeah. I learned from Omar Hakim to put a towel over, just a cotton towel. It doesn't have to be the cooling towel.
Right.
But if you just put a cotton towel over that vinyl throne, your life will be so much better.
What does it do?
It keeps you from getting sticky in your grinds. Is what it does. And plus, just on top of that, man,
Winnie the Pooh, you don't wear pants.
What you do?
Don't stand up.
That's our first Winnie the Pooh reference we've ever had on this show. Do you know that Greg Bissonette was tapped to do the voice of Winnie the Pooh at one time?
Why?
Because he sounds just like him.
Can he do it?
He can do. He sounds exactly like him. Even his natural, normal voice.
He's got a good gig going.
He's got a heck of a gig going. But the towel thing, the other aspect of that, of the just regular cotton towel that you would be seated on, is if your hands do get sweaty, you literally just reach down and just dry your hands off on that towel. Good. You don't have to be an animal like you and dry them on your pants or something that. You know?
So I thought you were going to say the towel soaks up farts.
Well, it can do that too, you know?
Vinyl top does not.
And then, Dave, what am I holding up right now?
That's an insulated cup.
Yeah, well, more importantly, yes. Let me tell you, for folks who are unfamiliar with the brand of Yeti products.
There's an endorsement coming.
Well, it's no more than this Honeywell fan. We've already ruined the show by having Michael Vick at the door. But the thing is this. Okay, everybody looks at a Yeti, whether it be a cooler or a tumbler or any type of product. Which, look at this, Dave.
Yeah.
Also, did you see that one?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Are these in the merch store?
Yeah. And you look at it and the first thing you think is, how can a tumbler be worth $70?
That was?
Yes. And here's what I will tell you. If you pay the $70, you will know where that money went, my friend. Because here's the honest to gosh, real world scenario on this. You can take this here tumbler, and this is one of the large ones that I'm looking at now, maybe like a 32-ounce one or something.
One of a kind.
One of a kind. You can put ice in it, put water in it. And I have taken this thing, put it in a car, forgotten about it. Get up to 140 degrees in a car.
Right.
Come back 4 hours later and the ice is still in the cup.
Then what do?
You drink that delicious cold water. And if you feel like you want to spend a little bit of money and get something that will treat you right, if you want to get the premium Gretsch USA Customs of drinkware, man, a Yeti glass, Yeti tumbler, Yeti, because I also use this one for coffee, the small one. And I mean, you can it works in
same way.
inverse properties too,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Aw.
Yeah. So
Phil
you can
Smith, scientist.
you can put a hot beverage in here, and it won't last quite as long as the ice as the cold beverage. I've had better success on the cold end of things.
So you've never left hot coffee in your car for a 4-hour gig and come out and it's still hot?
Well, let me say this: I have left it for several hours, and it would come back, and it'd still be pretty warm.
Yeah.
Pretty warm. Yeah.
Post church gig.
Yes.
Come out.
Absolutely. We used to do those.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did, didn't we?
Oh yeah.
We can tell that's a whole that our particular experience on that one's a whole different podcast. And then the last thing I want to mention, and then we want to talk about possibly booking some gigs and that type of stuff, is that if you're a fella like myself and a fellow like my compatriot across the table who is, let's just say that we're somewhat follically challenged.
Yep.
Take a hat.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm really bad about that. I forget about it.
Take a hat, man.
Definitely, because it hurts when your head gets sunburned.
Ooh, it is brutal when your head gets sunburned. Mm-hmm. Dave, anything else you can think of that you want to?
Yeah, sure. What about, well, for me, I used to have a lot of trouble with reeds on saxophones would dry out, and you would try and pick up your horn and play, and you go, nothing would come out because the reeds would dry out, hot and sunny. So now I use synthetic reeds to combat that. They work really well. What about, do drum heads do weird things when they sit in the sun?
Let me say this. With the incredible technologies of plastic drum heads now, and especially the incredible consistency of Chris Brady and his fantastic Aquarian drum heads, I really can't say enough about them. I mean, they're tremendous.
You've tried.
I've tried to say bad things about them. Now, I can say plenty of bad things about Chris.
All right.
Man, I've never had an issue with those things.
Really?
I mean, if they do slip at all, man, it would be so little as putting a drum key on one, possibly two tension rods, maybe turning it a tenth of a turn.
Yeah.
That's how little.
Okay, good.
Now, of course, if you're dealing with any type of animal skin,
yeah, well,
forget about it.
I don't think anybody is on an outdoor gig, right? Like
you
a
bet
Pops
you would.
concert,
You would
think?
certainly hope not, because I mean, even if you were playing percussion like hand drums, like bongos or congas,
djembe,
or djembe or something where it's either goat or rawhide, I would certainly like to think that you have enough chops in you as far as like practicality to be able to know how to manipulate those, because about the only way you can do it, and when you're on the gig, you're somewhat hamstrung by this. But like, let me give you the two extremes. Okay, if you were here in Atlanta and you've got massive 80% humidity and you're using skinheads, you would hope that either lights that are being on the gig, which will fry you even more, will dry out some of the moisture in the heads. The other great thing, or the other very underrated thing, is having multiple fans pointed down on the heads. That will dry them out and allow you to tune them up a little bit, right?
Yeah, okay.
Without them getting so boggy. Now, here's exact opposite. Let's say that you are in Vegas in the summertime, 10% humidity, and it's 105.
Yeah, easily.
The drum heads are going to be like a wooden tabletop, right?
Okay.
Because they're going to dry out and get super, super. And in fact, you even run into the possibility of splitting or breaking the head because they get so dry and so tight, right?
Sure.
What most people will do at that time is you can either put some type of oil on them, which will put a little moisture into them. Some people, if you get massively desperate, man, you can just take a damp cloth,
Just wipe them off, kind of.
Wipe them down and just desperately try to put moisture in them. But it's not fun, man. It is not fun at all, and especially on drum set. If you take a guy who's a super purist like Jeff Hamilton, who used calfskin heads all the way up until the 90s, this guy did. He was one of the last holdouts. There's probably, and then, now that I've said that, the emails will come in, no, this guy's using them now, right? Well, if he got rid of them because they're too much of a pain in the butt to take care of, then that'll pretty much tell you what you need to know about that.
Yeah. Well, everybody's gotten used to the sound of a synthetic head anyway, so it's not. Nobody's freaking out because you're not using a calfskin head at this point.
And then, I mean, if you want to just add a little more fuel to that argument, essentially, if you think of it like this, if you are outside playing anyways, have you ever played, honestly, Dave, have you ever played large outdoor gigs where the sound is great anyway?
Well, yeah.
See what I mean?
It's going through a PA, so
yeah,
whatever.
You're at the mercy of the guy that's back there, pushing the buttons anyway.
Yeah. I don't know. My guy's good.
All right.
I endorse my front of house engineer every day.
Who is it?
Kip Connor.
Okay, I don't know him.
He's really good.
Yeah.
It sounds great.
All right. Well, rock on Yacht Rock. Dave, I know that you're a gentleman that has from time to time enjoyed booking a few gigs.
Not enjoyed, but I have booked.
Well, yeah. Well, you've booked me. You've booked me on plenty of gigs.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, you live and learn.
Pretty much every one of those.
Yeah.
You learn, next time I'm not doing that.
Yeah, and you want to make sure you have these inclusions in riders, and you want to have clear and open communication with clients, even if it's the gnashing of teeth with these clients from a standpoint of like, oh my God, if I have to hear from that guy one more time, I just wanted to book a band and be done with it, right? Mm-hmm. But there are things that you do learn over a period of time that you just have to check the boxes and do them, because let me tell you, if you think it's a pain in the butt, spend that extra few minutes of, really checking with the client and making sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. Just wait till you get on the gig and that stuff is not done.
Yep.
And then you have to deal with 2, 3, 4 hours of the stuff that didn't get done.
Yeah, we're trying to work around it. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought what we would do is we would talk a little bit about experiences from being on gigs, and then what we learned from them, and then what you should ask for when you're dealing with these outdoor gigs.
Yeah.
And the first one is a very drum-centric related type thing. However, I mean, it affects everyone, but it really affects the drummer. Mm-hmm. First thing first, when you're outdoors, believe it or not, yes, folks, people sometimes expect you that you're going to play right on bare ground or to set right up on grass.
Yeah.
And you can't do that. Can't be. I mean, if you
People
can,
try.
but you're going to be miserable. You've got to have some sort of steady, stable, level staging.
Is there a stage? Yes.
Yes. So you have to ask for that. You have to do that. Even and again, not to be a pain in the butt, but your old buddy Phil is looking out for you here on this. No, just throwing down some plywood is not going to get it, because plywood's inevitably warped.
Yeah.
It
bounces.
Yes, and it bounces. At least have them build just 2x4s and plywood. Get you the 4 inches off the ground. Mm-hmm. You got to have it, because as a drummer, things have to be stable and they have to be level. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be leaning to the southwest for the length of a gig.
What's the best direction to have to lean when the stage is, or when you're on a hill?
North, baby. North.
You want to play
all day long.
with the kick drum higher?
If you have to, absolutely you do. Absolutely. That's a heck of a question, man, and that's one of those things of pick your poison.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, you're better off actually leaning back just a hair bit than you are. Man, leaning forward is misery. Because you got to get your old core strength up and all that stuff.
The drum keeps walking away from you.
So yeah, you gotta absolutely have some sort of staging that gets you off the ground, and it's got to be level.
Yeah,
that's the first thing I want to say.
Right.
The covering is also a no-brainer.
Yep.
And people
gotta ask though.
Yeah, you gotta ask for it, because and then you ask, and people will go, well, what if it's gonna be nice and stuff? Well, here we go. Remember at the beginning when we started this show, I said, hey, I've done 4 gigs in the last 10 days, and 2 of them were typhoon-style events that ended, because of it. That first gig that I played, which was out of town, was in a location where it was absolutely beautiful that day. It was hot.
Yeah.
But it was beautiful. There was no rain scheduled, or even if it was, there might be like a 5 or 10% chance of rain, right? Well, Sure enough, sure enough, the gig was contracted. It had to be on a stage, had to have a covering. Man, it came Friday the 13th style storm.
Yeah, I've sat through those.
I mean, it ended the gig. It was that's how bad it was. I mean, it's just like it happened. We can't play in this. We're outdoors. You just can't play in it. Done. Ended the gig. So you got to have that covering. It doesn't matter. You have to do it, or you take all your gear and your personal safety into your own hands.
And with those gigs like that, you probably need your tarp anyway, because I've been on gigs where there was a roof, but the wind was blowing so much with the rain that you still had to tarp everything and then sit on the tarp to hold it down.
Yep.
So, yeah, you're not scot-free just because it's covered.
Gotta have it.
Anyway.
The next thing.
Hey, it's raining here.
Is it?
Uh-oh. Yep.
See, aren't you glad that I had us planned to be inside?
That's
for
good,
this?
yeah. Rain contingency.
Now, with that in mind, that's the perfect segue. Mother Nature has given us the segue to say that regardless of the fact that you have asked for a stage and you've asked for a tent, you need to have a rain plan.
Yep.
Because here's the thing. It's a no-go if all of a sudden the day of 90% chance of thunderstorms all the way through. And any savvy booking agent, once you get to the day of gig, there's no refunds.
Right.
You better have a rain plan because you got to pay us anyway. You got to have someplace inside to do that. So, again, check with a client. Make sure you have some sort of a rain plan.
And you got to make the call early enough.
Yep.
Because you don't want to set up all your gear, have it, okay, we're moving inside, then you have to pick up all your gear and reset up somewhere else, especially if you have to pick it up and move it through the rain to a room in, next door or something like that. You want it once it's set, we're here, we planted the flag.
That's exactly right. And that is the clause of the rain plan. Exactly that is that we set up once.
Yep.
We tear down once. And if we are in this covered tented area, if it is storming, if lightning is happening, it's
over.
It's it.
Yeah.
That's the end of the gig. And people don't really understand that on the gig unless you explain it to them first, because I'll guarantee you that not only you and I know this, but you and I have had some friends that have gotten shocked.
Yeah.
Because of outdoor gigs and not stopping at the right time. Probably most people listen to this also understand that as well. And even if they don't know anyone that's had that happen to them before, but when you explain it,
it's scary
to a client like that, and you go, look, you don't want to have somebody from this band laying down on the stage, that's gotten electrocuted.
Yeah.
Because it has happened before. So you just have to be upfront and explain it to them. And if you can't appeal to their rational side, and if they can't see that, then I don't want to work for them.
And even, beyond your own gear, trying to keep it dry, if you are booking a gig, maybe you have a PA, there are cables running across the ground. Nobody wants to have to deal with wet cables of picking them up because they, got to get it dried. There's no moving that stuff. No way.
The problem that we had on that gig that I was mentioning, where it was not scheduled to have storms, but it ended up happening anyway. There were cables that were run outside of the staged area that had to go kind of around to this, I guess you would call it a pedestal, right? That had all the electrical outlets on it. The cover that covered that pedestal was broken.
Oh, no.
And so the plugs were literally just open. And some genius actually had a good idea. They took one of those large Rubbermaid bins and just turned it upside down and put it over it. And that in itself probably kept some people from getting shocked. So you have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, or even, you don't have to get shocked. What if your gear gets fried from a short, if your keyboard gets destroyed just from a power surge from the rain getting into the power supply? Like that. Is the client going to pay for the new keyboard? No.
And especially what if you've got a gig the next day?
Yeah.
And then the day after that? I mean, you really have to practice some self-preservation. It goes without saying that you better make sure that you include in your rider that you got plenty of water.
Yep.
And not only do I include the water, but I always tell them that the water has to be by stage.
Mm-hmm.
Must be there.
Yep.
And then the last thing I want to add, and Dave, feel free to add on to this, is that something that I absolutely insist on is that, hey, if this is going to be an outdoor gig and you've checked all the boxes and you've agreed to everything else, the last thing that is absolutely mandatory is that the band must have an indoor air-conditioned green room.
Yeah, that is nice. That makes a difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
Even if it's an outdoor tent, as long as the outdoor tent is air-conditioned.
Yeah, or a lot of fans.
I got to have some air
AC?
conditioning, man. Yeah, they've got to have that.
I was going to think the other thing that I like these days is a towel. Like having the client provide water and a set of towels for the stage.
Yeah,
especially guys like you that are doing a lot more physical work, are sweating a lot, and the towel can be a lifesaver. Or even just the guitar player's hands get sweaty.
Sure,
while he's working something like that. Towels are definitely a bonus.
I hope the listening audience can hear the thunder. I mean, it's
Riders on the Storm.
Well, let me tell you what, my friend, you got a bike you're going to be riding back.
I'm going to be spending the night.
I got a car carrier, man. I'll take you back home if it ends up happening. I want to talk a little bit about just some good old common sense on the gig tips. Some things that it's not necessarily gear related. It's not necessarily rider related, but just some things that when you get there, just be smart about, don't overdo it, that sort of stuff. When you're setting up, make sure that where you set up is not right on the very edge of a tent covering.
Yeah.
And let me say this, that even goes for tented sides, because how many times have you been on an event, on some kind of a gig, and even if you have tinted sides, if you get into some heavy weather where the wind's blowing, those sides go in and out. Right? And I mean,
you take a beating.
You can take a beating on those. So you just want to make sure that you get yourself set up far enough inside of a tent or inside of a shell or inside of whatever kind of covering that you got.
And your gear too, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, to where you don't have to worry about that. And that also goes with that whole thing with the shifting sign as well. Another thing, don't take for granted that you're going to have a secure and covered place to store cases, but insist on it.
Yeah. Preferably close to the stage.
There you go, because here's the thing. Our case is supposed to protect our gear, right? You don't want to have your cases sitting out in a driving storm and then have to put gear inside of wet cases. You just completely and totally ruined the purpose of them at that time. Which leads me to a story, Dave.
Go ahead.
Do you know those large, I'm going to call it a coffin case, but they're these large cases that are on wheels that are, let's say, 6 feet long, 4 feet high, and they're primarily used for old school lighting, like par cans and par can stands.
So you're talking about like a road case?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Road case, ball corners, recessed latches, all that good stuff, right?
Yes.
Okay. I was on a gig one time. I would love to say who the person was that did it, because it would add so much to the story, but the story's good enough.
Okay, go ahead.
But this guy, once we got on the gig, he was told by the production person or whatever that, hey, this case is too big to fit in the allotted area where you're going to store cases. And it's heavy too,
Sure,
right?
Yeah.
They said, you're going to have to put it back out on the truck. This guy was not having it whatsoever. So he took that case, rolled it right outside the door and right around behind the building, completely and totally exposed. And it was one of these days, again, where 0% chance of rain. Man, about 2 or 3 hours into the gig, it becomes a frog strangler. I mean, man, it's like a cyclone that's coming through. And we went to the green room, and you could look out the window, and you could see this case that was just sitting over there, just getting pounded, man, by this storm. It's probably a $1,500 case.
Oh yeah,
that's just getting pounded. So the moral of the story is, insist on some place that's covered and weatherproof for your cases.
Yeah, definitely, because they're not doing you any good otherwise.
Dave, anything else you want to add to this torrid story?
How about I know for me, I when I get hot and everybody gets hot and kind of cranky, just kind of mind your attitude a little bit. Might be a good thing. You know, expect that everybody's going to be a little upset about being hot and uncomfortable, and just kind of play it cool, keep the mood light, maybe.
You know what I always think of? I always think of the audience at that time.
Well, yeah, I was thinking more at even just setting up your gear, you know, just.
Yeah. All right. But what I was talking about is okay, yeah, we know we're miserable, but so is the audience.
It's true.
The audience is going to be equally miserable. We're all in it together. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I would think less of that, because usually to me these gigs happen where the setup and the sound check is the hot and sweaty sunlight part, and by the time you get to the gig, the weather's perfect and everybody's happy and the storm has already blown through.
Right, yeah.
You know, and they have no idea of how mad you were 4 hours ago about, there's no cover for the stage and my gear's hot. And
yeah, the event that I did at Park Tavern, which you, sir, are playing a week from today.
Yeah, week from
it
is Friday.
Yeah, the event that I did last week had guests prior to the gig uncovered outside late afternoon, just direct sunlight. So I knew that they were actually more miserable than us.
Yeah, you're probably right.
And
they've been drinking too, right?
And they had been drinking and partying and all that good stuff. And then they move in under the tent to where you don't have quite the sunlight, but you have about 90% humidity.
Yeah. Under the plastic.
Good times, my friend.
Yeah.
Brother, it's been a pleasure having you over here.
I did it. I survived.
I'm going to put you on the spot. What's your favorite episode that you've listened to?
Big Rye.
It's
either
hard.
one of them.
It's hard to go wrong with those, man.
Yeah. Big fan.
I think me, you, and him might be our own favorites, and everybody else is kind of like, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, we hope you got something out of this, folks. This comes from about 40 years of combined outdoor gigging, at which mine's not going to be that tomorrow. But boy, I've done my duty over the last couple of weeks.
I got one on Sunday that's outdoors.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and I've got one tomorrow night that's outdoors at Matilda's.
What,
it's like a Alpharetta somewhere. Playing with Scott Glazer.
The Mojo Dojo?
Yeah.
Tell Mr. Glazer I said hello.
Yeah.
Tell him I'm
Jan
missing
Rico's
him
playing drums
and I love him.
All right. Hadn't seen him in a long. I was thinking the other day, I have no idea when I met Scott.
Glazer?
Yeah.
I remember when I probably met him 20 years ago also.
Oh yeah, easily.
Yeah.
I just can't, like, I can think of how I met Joseph and you and several other people through Cafe 290, but I can't remember, when did I meet Scott? No idea.
I don't know for sure either, but I know it was a long time ago. I haven't seen Scott, man, in probably 6-7 years.
Looks exactly the same.
I would hope so.
Old guy.
Hope he hadn't grown like a second evil head.
No. Same old guy. Still kicking it.
All right. Well,
do I get the Rorschach test or not?
No, you don't. This is not an interview. Are you kidding me?
No, what is it? Plastic or wood tips, all that stuff. I was ready, man.
You wouldn't believe how many people ask me that, though. They always go, "We're gonna have to do that test." No, you don't get to do the test.
It would be funny because I'm not a drummer, so I don't know.
It's only for drummers, the Rorschach test. You'd fail miserably.
Oh,
man.
I know. That's what's fun.
I would have possibly thought about that maybe if you had kept that drum set.
Sorry.
Do you know? Let me ask you this.
Technically, I still have the hi-hats.
Well, technically, you either do or you don't.
I do. Well, John has them.
Okay. Yeah.
He's trying to move them for me.
I'm gonna. What is
They're
actually
in his garage.
in this long beat up outro that we're doing right now? What song is playing underneath this? Is it going to be a yacht rock style song, or are we going to go with something back from our like advanced contemporary
like
jazz
a Donald
days?
Brown song?
Yeah, something like that.
I don't know. It's up to you. You're the driver of the bus here.
You've complimented my outgoing music from time to time.
I like them. Yeah.
And well, you've beat me up a few times also about don't be talking over Brecker's solos. So
yeah, shut up. Let it run.
Well, I've got to.
She got better about it.
I've got to announce one more time. Looking for an intern, folks.
Yes.
Dave's not going to do it.
Probably.
He doesn't know anybody that's going to do it.
No.
We're still looking for an intern. We're still taking applications. We've had a few responses so far, but we're still looking for some more. All you got to do is you got to know how to get online, work on some websites. We need somebody that knows something about search engine optimization.
I thought the website was up and running.
It is, but it's got to be updated all the time, man, and I'm a one-man band over here.
Chalden won't help you?
What do you think? I've got to have
say that.
social media promotion would help. It takes, if you're a little bit creative and like to do a little bit of writing and do some promoting online, we would love to help you. Or love to have you help us. Be a major help to us because I am running myself ragged between doing this show and doing gigs and teaching and doing some writing and some other things. It's
keep crying.
Oh, thank you. You're so. I'm going to make you ride home in the rain, Freeman.
I know. I'm just going to hang out here a couple hours.
So if you're interested, if you know anyone that's interested, teachers, if you have any students that want a little bit of credit for college, send them over to our website. We're at www.drummersweeklygroovecast.com. You can get in touch with us through our email form there. We will get back to you 100%. While you're there, interact with us on social media. All of our social media outlets are there. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can access all of our episodes, all of our videos that are on there. And then, like I said before, you can always get in touch with us through our email form that's online. Dave, any parting words of wisdom before we close this sucker out?
Wood tips, Coke, Steve Gadd.
Oh, God.
I can't think of, what are the other questions?
What, barbecue? You want to go with that one?
Yeah, well, I'm vegetarian, so
I'm ending this right now.
Okay. No, Memphis native, so I gotta go pork.
Of course.
Right, but I don't do that stuff anymore.
You don't do it any less either.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you guys later.
Yeah, play the music.
Bye.